She thought speaking German would keep her secret safe, until the waiter she mocked replied in 4 flawless languages and exposed her cruelty to an entire ballroom. Elise Whitman had spent 28 years hiding behind wealth and perfect smiles, but one careless insult would shatter everything she thought she knew about power, respect, and love. What she didn't expect was that the man she humiliated would become the only person who could save her family's most important night, or that choosing him would mean losing everything her father had built. Some mistakes can't be undone with money. Some apologies require more than words. And sometimes, the person you underestimate becomes the one who changes your life forever. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from, because this story of pride, redemption, and unexpected love will leave you speechless. The crystal chandeliers threw diamond-bright light across the ballroom, and Elise Whitman felt every beam as a spotlight on her mistakes. She stood near the marble columns, watching the cocktail hour unfold with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent 28 years learning how things were supposed to look. Her emerald gown fit perfectly. Her smile stayed in place. But inside, her stomach twisted like a wrung towel. "Breathe," she whispered to herself in German. Atman. Her mother's memorial dinner happened every year. Same hotel, same investor crowd, same champagne fountain that cost more than most people earned in a month. Tonight marked 5 years since the car accident. 5 years of her father, Victor, tightening his grip on the family foundation, the family image, the family everything, and Elise had learned to tighten right along with him. "Darling, you look tense." Nadia Keller appeared at her elbow, a glass of wine in each hand. She offered one to Elise. "Drink, it'll smooth the edges." Elise took it, but didn't sip. "Mr. Schneider just arrived. He's the one Dad's been courting for months. If tonight goes well, he invests. If it doesn't, then your father will find another German millionaire to charm." Nadia's laugh was light, careless. "Stop carrying the world, Elise. That's what staff is for." As if on cue, a server stepped between them, balancing a tray of empty glasses he'd collected from a nearby table. He was tall, with dark skin that caught the light, and he moved with a grace that seemed out of place in the chaos of the event. But he was blocking Elise's view of Mr. Schneider, who stood across the room in deep conversation with her father. Frustration bubbled up before Elise could stop it. She leaned toward Nadia and muttered in German, "Der Kellner steht im Weg wie ein Baum. Hat keine Augen?" "The waiter stands in the way like a tree. Does he have no eyes?" The words came out sharper than she meant, harsher. The server paused. Then, without turning fully, he replied in flawless German, "Entschuldigung, ich wollte nicht stören." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you." Elise's breath caught. He turned now, meeting her gaze with calm, steady eyes. Then he switched languages as easily as changing channels. "Je peux me déplacer si vous préférez." "I can move if you prefer." French, smooth and unhurried. "O prefiere español? Or do you prefer Spanish?" A slight smile touched his mouth, but it wasn't mean. It was kind, almost amused. "O forse italiano è meglio per voi." Or perhaps Italian is better for you. The ballroom seemed to shrink. Elise felt heat climb her neck, flood her cheeks. Around them, conversations paused. A woman in pearls stared. Even Mr. Schneider had glanced over. The server, Malik, his name tag read, gave a small, gracious nod. "If you need anything this evening, please let me know. I'm happy to help." Then he walked away, tray balanced perfectly, as if he'd just offered her a glass of water instead of a lesson in humility. Nadia's mouth hung open. "Did that just—" "Yes." Elise's voice came out strangled. Her hands shook, so she set down the wineglass before she dropped it. "Yes, it did." Well, Nadia tried to laugh. At least he was polite about it. Elise didn't answer. She could still feel eyes on her. The moment would spread through the room like spilled wine, staining everything. She'd insulted someone in a language she thought was safe, a language that was supposed to keep her thoughts private. And he'd answered her in 4. She felt small. Smaller than she'd felt in years. Across the ballroom, her father caught her eye and made a subtle gesture. Fix this. That's what the look meant. Control the narrative. Elise forced her shoulders back and walked toward the service corridor, her heels clicking on the polished floor. She had to apologize. Not because it was good optics, though it was, but because the shame sitting in her chest felt too heavy to carry. Malik Adeyemi set the tray down in the service pantry and let out a long breath. His hands were steady, but his heart beat a little faster than usual. He hadn't planned to call out a guest. That wasn't his job. His job was to keep his head down, collect tips, finish his shift, and get back to studying for his interpreter certification exam. But the words had landed on him like stones, like a tree. Does he have no eyes? He'd heard worse. Way worse. But tonight, something in him had refused to shrink. Malik. Chef Rosa Alvarez leaned against the doorframe, her white apron smudged with sauce. She was 45, tough as dried leather, and one of the few people in the hotel who treated staff like people. I heard what happened out there. Yeah? Malik rinsed his hands in the small sink. Guess word travels fast. Word always travels fast. Rosa crossed her arms. What I want to know is, are you okay? He glanced at her, surprised. I'm fine. You don't look fine. You look like you're deciding whether to quit or stay. Malik dried his hands on a towel. I'm not quitting. I need this job. He needed the paycheck, needed the schedule that let him study during the day, needed the reference letter Chef Rosa had promised him when he finished his certification. I got tired of being invisible. Rosa nodded slowly. Good. Don't let anybody make you small, mijo. Not even the pretty ones in expensive dresses. Malik almost smiled. She wasn't trying to be cruel. She just didn't think I'd understand. That's still cruel, just quieter. Rosa pushed off the doorframe. Now get back out there. They're going to need you more than they know. What do you mean? But Rosa just smiled and headed back to the kitchen. Elise found Malik near the staff elevator, reviewing a clipboard. She'd rehearsed the apology 3 times in her head, but now that she stood in front of him, the words felt flimsy. Excuse me, she said softly. He looked up. His expression didn't change. No anger, no satisfaction, just polite attention. I owe you an apology. Elise kept her voice low. A pair of servers passed behind her, carrying trays. What I said earlier was rude and thoughtless. I had no right to speak about you that way in any language. I'm sorry. Malik studied her for a moment. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. She needed him to believe her. I was stressed, but that's not an excuse. No, he agreed. It's not. The honesty stung, but Elise respected it. Is there anything I can do to make this right? You just did. Malik's tone stayed even. But if I can offer one thing? Respect isn't a performance, Ms. Whitman. It's not something you do when people are watching. It's who you are when you think no one understands. Elise swallowed hard. The words landed like truth often did, sharp and clean. Before she could respond, a hotel coordinator rushed up, breathless. Malik, thank God. We have a problem. Malik straightened. What kind of problem? The interpreter for Mr. Schneider's toast. She's stuck in traffic. Accident on the bridge. She won't make it. The coordinator looked frantic. We need someone who speaks German, fluent German. You're the only person on staff who— I'm not an interpreter, Malik interrupted. I'm still in training. But you speak German? I heard you earlier. Please. The coordinator glanced at Elise. Ms. Whitman, maybe you could— I'll do it, Malik said quietly. Elise's pulse kicked up. Are you sure? He met her eyes. I said I'd help if you needed anything. I meant it. The coordinator nearly sagged with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. Ms. Whitman, can you go over the program with him? Make sure he has the speech notes? Of course. Elise's mind raced. This changed everything. Her father would be furious about the last-minute switch. But if Malik could pull it off, the evening might still succeed. And if he couldn't— She pushed the thought away. Follow me, she said. They worked in a quiet corner near the coat check, a small table between them covered in printed speeches and cue cards. Elise explained the evening's flow. Welcome remarks, her father's introduction, Mr. Schneider's toast, then dinner. Malik listened, asked questions, made notes in neat handwriting. Schneider's toast is formal, Elise said. Very structured, but there's one line here. She pointed to a sentence in the middle. It sounds brusque in English. I'm worried it'll come across even harsher in German. Malik read it over. Wir erwarten Exzellenz, nicht Entschuldigungen. We expect excellence, not excuses. He frowned. Yeah, that's harsh, especially for a toast. Can you soften it? He thought for a moment, tapping his pen against the page. What if we say, Wir streben nach Exzellenz und lernen aus Herausforderungen? We strive for excellence and learn from challenges. Same idea, but it sounds like partnership instead of a lecture. Elise blinked. That's perfect. I'll check with Schneider first. Make sure he's comfortable with the change. Malik looked up. But yeah, I think it'll work. For the first time all night, Elise felt a flicker of hope. You're good at this. I've been studying for 2 years. He smiled, just a little. I'd better be getting somewhere. Why interpretation? The question slipped out before she could stop it. If you don't mind me asking. Malik hesitated, then answered. I grew up in a neighborhood where half the families spoke something other than English at home. Spanish, Yoruba, Mandarin. People needed help at doctor's offices, school meetings, legal stuff. I watched my mom translate for neighbors when I was a kid. She'd sit at our kitchen table for hours, filling out forms, making phone calls. He paused. I like the idea of being the person who helps people understand each other. Elise felt something shift in her chest. That's a good reason. Yeah. Malik's gaze flicked to her. What about you? Why do you do this? He gestured vaguely toward the ballroom. The galas, the foundation work? Honestly? Elise folded her hands on the table. I used to think it was about honoring my mother. She loved events like this. She was good at bringing people together. But after she died, my father turned everything into a performance. Perfect speeches, perfect photos, perfect everything. And I just went along with it. Do you still want to? The question hung in the air between them. I don't know, Elise admitted. Tonight was supposed to be about remembering her. But I've spent the whole evening worrying about investors and image. That's not what she would have wanted. Malik didn't offer advice or empty comfort. He just nodded, like he understood. A voice echoed from the ballroom. Ms. Whitman, we're ready to start seating. Elise stood, smoothing her dress. Thank you for doing this, really. Don't thank me yet. Malik gathered the cue cards. Let's see if I can actually pull it off. As they walked back toward the noise and the lights, Elise realized something surprising. For the first time all night, she wasn't carrying the weight alone. And it felt a little bit like relief. The dinner began with the kind of precision that money could buy. Waiters moved in choreographed lines. Wine glasses filled at exactly the right moment. The first course appeared on every plate within seconds of each other, as if the kitchen had orchestrated a symphony instead of a meal. Elise sat at the head table between her father and Mr. Schneider. Victor Whitman looked calm, but she knew the tight set of his jaw. He'd pulled her aside before seating and said only 4 words. "This has to work." No pressure then. Across the room, Malik stood near the small podium, hands clasped behind his back. He wore the standard server's uniform, white shirt, black vest, black slacks, but somehow he made it look dignified, professional, like he belonged exactly where he was. Chef Rosa caught Elise's eye from the kitchen doorway and gave a small nod. "He'll be fine," the gesture seemed to say. "Trust him?" Elise tried, but her stomach still twisted every time she glanced at the notes in front of her father. The meal progressed. Conversations rose and fell around her. Nadia, seated 2 chairs down, kept sneaking glances at Malik and texting someone under the table. Elise made a mental note to talk to her about that later. Finally, Victor stood. The room quieted. "Good evening," he began, his voice carrying the practiced warmth of someone who'd given 1,000 speeches. "Thank you all for joining us on this meaningful evening. 5 years ago, we lost someone irreplaceable, my wife, Catherine. A woman who believed that wealth meant nothing if it wasn't shared, that success meant nothing without compassion." Elise's throat tightened. Her mother had believed those things, but somewhere along the way, the foundation had stopped living them. Victor continued, introducing Mr. Schneider, praising his company's values, building toward the partnership everyone in the room knew was coming. Then he gestured to Malik. "And now, Mr. Schneider would like to share a few words. Malik Adeyemi will be interpreting this evening." Malik stepped forward. If he was nervous, it didn't show. Mr. Schneider rose, nodded to the room, and began speaking in German. His accent was thick, formal, the kind that came from old money and older traditions. But Malik matched him word for word, his interpretation smooth and unhurried. "We gather tonight not just as business associates, but as people who understand that true investment is in each other." Elise watched, amazed. Malik didn't just translate the words. He captured the tone, the intent, the subtle shifts in meaning. When Schneider paused for emphasis, Malik paused. When Schneider's voice warmed, Malik's did too. And when they reached the line, Malik had softened. "We strive for excellence and learn from challenges." Schneider smiled slightly and gave Malik an approving glance. The toast ended. Applause filled the room. Elise released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. After the speeches, the evening shifted into a more relaxed rhythm. People moved between tables, conversations loosened, and the string quartet in the corner switched from classical pieces to something jazzy and modern. Elise found herself near the service corridor again, needing a moment away from the noise. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. Hiding? She opened them to find Malik standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets. "Taking a breath," she corrected. "You were incredible up there." "Schneider made it easy. He's a good speaker." Malik tilted his head. "You okay? You look tired." "I am tired." The honesty surprised her. "I've been tired for 5 years." Malik didn't push, just waited. "My mother used to say that events like this were about people, not presentations," Elise continued. "She'd spend the whole night talking to everyone, not just the big donors, but the staff, the musicians, the people setting up chairs. She made everyone feel seen." Elise looked down at her hands. "I don't know how to do that. I just know how to make things look right." "That's not true," Malik said quietly. "You came and apologized to me earlier. That wasn't about looks. That was real. Maybe. Elise met his gaze. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why did you agree to interpret tonight? You could have said no. You don't owe us anything, especially not after what I said. Malik considered the question. Chef Rosa told me once that dignity isn't something people give you. It's something you carry. And when you carry it, people notice. He shrugged. I wanted to do a good job because I respect the work. Not because I was trying to prove anything to you, or your father, or anyone else. Elise felt the words settle in her chest, like stones dropping into still water. Before she could respond, Nadia appeared, slightly breathless. There you are! I've been looking everywhere! She held up her phone. Okay, this is too good. I got a photo of you two going over the cue cards earlier. And Elise, you look so focused. It's actually sweet. Nadia, Elise started, but Nadia was already typing. I'm sending it to the group chat. Everyone's going to love this. What group chat? Malik asked, his tone careful. Just friends. Nadia waved a hand. Nobody important. Elise's stomach dropped. Nadia, don't. But it was too late. Nadia hit send, grinned, and slipped her phone back into her clutch. Relax, it's a cute picture. Shows you're hands-on with the event. She disappeared back into the ballroom, leaving a sharp silence behind. Malik's expression had shifted, not angry, but closed off, guarded. I didn't ask her to do that, Elise said quickly. I know. But his voice had cooled. I should get back to work. Malik. It's fine, Ms. Whitman. The formality stung. Enjoy the rest of your evening. He walked away before she could explain, leaving Elise standing alone in the corridor, frustration and guilt tangled tight in her chest. An hour later, the dinner wound down. Guests lingered over coffee and dessert, conversations softening into the comfortable buzz of a successful night. Mr. Schneider found Elise near the window and spoke to her in German. Ihr Vater ist ein kluger Mann, aber Sie haben Mut gezeigt. Your father is a smart man, but you showed courage. Elise blinked, surprised. Mut? Courage? Ja, es braucht Mut, einen Fehler zuzugeben. Und noch mehr, jemandem zu vertrauen, den andere übersehen würden. Yes, it takes courage to admit a mistake, and even more to trust someone others would overlook. He glanced toward the kitchen, where Malik was helping clear tables. Dieser junge Mann hat mehr Würde als die meisten Menschen, die ich getroffen habe. Sie haben gut gewählt, ihm zu vertrauen. That young man has more dignity than most people I've met. You chose well to trust him. Elise's throat tightened. Thank you. Schneider smiled, patted her hand, and moved on to say goodbye to her father. The words stayed with her, though. You chose well to trust him. She hadn't chosen, not really. Circumstances had forced them together. But now, standing in the soft light of the winding down evening, Elise realized she wanted to choose. She wanted to know more about the man who'd held his grace under pressure, who'd turned her careless insult into an opportunity for something better. She found Malik in the service pantry, untying his apron. Chef Rosa was there too, checking inventory on a clipboard. Malik? Elise said from the doorway. Do you have a minute? He glanced at Rosa, who gave him a look that clearly meant, go on. Sure, he said. They walked out to the back loading area, where the noise of the hotel faded into the hum of the city. The air was cooler here, carrying the smell of rain that hadn't fallen yet. I wanted to apologize again. Elise started. Not for earlier. Well, yes, for earlier, but also for Nadia. She means well, but she doesn't always think before she posts things. It's not your fault, Malik said, leaning against the brick wall. But it's a reminder, of how people see me. I'm not a person in that picture. I'm part of the event, part of the background. That's not how I see you, isn't it? His gaze was steady, not accusing, just honest. You needed help tonight, and I was there, but tomorrow, I'll be back to being the guy who clears plates. And you'll be back to being the heiress who runs events. Elise wanted to argue, but the truth of it sat heavy between them. What if I don't want that to be the whole story? Malik studied her. What do you want, Ms. Whitman? Elise, she corrected. And I don't know, coffee, conversation, a chance to say thank you properly, not as a guest thanking staff, but as one person to another. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. There's a diner about 6 blocks from here. Opens at midnight. Best coffee in Manhattan, according to Chef Rosa. Is that an invitation? It's a maybe. His tone softened. I have a practice exam in the morning, early, so I can't stay out late. But if you want to meet me there in half an hour after I finish cleaning up, I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Just coffee, as equals. Elise felt something warm unfold in her chest. I'd like that. Then I'll see you there. Malik pushed off the wall. It's called Rosie's. You can't miss it. Big pink neon sign. Rosie's, Elise repeated. I'll be there? He nodded and headed back inside. Elise stayed in the cool air for another moment, letting the city sounds wash over her. Somewhere above, thunder rumbled soft and distant. She should go back in, say goodbye to the last guests, help her father wrap up final details with Schneider. But instead, she pulled out her phone and texted her driver to take the night off. Tonight, she'd walk. Rosie's diner sat on a corner between a dry cleaner and a shuttered bodega. The pink neon sign buzzed and flickered, casting rose-colored light onto the wet sidewalk. It had started to drizzle. Nothing heavy, just enough to make the streetlights shimmer. Elise stepped inside and was hit with the smell of coffee, bacon grease, and something sweet baking in the back. The place was nearly empty. A couple of night shift workers sat at the counter, and an older man dozed in a corner booth. Malik was already there, sitting in a booth by the window. He'd changed out of his uniform into jeans and a dark blue sweater, and he looked more relaxed than she'd seen him all night. You made it, he said as she slid into the seat across from him. I did. Elise glanced around. This place is perfect. Right? Rosa wasn't kidding. He signaled the waitress, who brought over 2 mugs and a pot of coffee without being asked. Cream? Sugar? Black is fine. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, just sipping coffee and watching the rain streak down the window. Can I ask you something? Malik said finally. Of course. Why'd you really come tonight? To the diner, I mean. Elise wrapped her hands around the warm mug. Because I've spent 5 years doing everything the way I'm supposed to. The right schools, the right events, the right smile. And tonight, for the first time, I met someone who didn't care about any of that. You just were yourself. And it made me realize how exhausting it is to be anyone else. Malik nodded slowly. I get that. Different reasons, but I get it. What do you mean? When you're a black guy working service jobs, people expect you to be a certain way. Quiet, grateful, invisible. And if you push back, even politely, suddenly you're difficult. You're threatening. He met her eyes. So yeah, I understand the exhaustion of performing. Elise felt the weight of his words. I never thought about it that way. Most people don't. He smiled, but it was sad around the edges. That's why tonight mattered. When you apologized, I could tell you meant it. That's rare. I did mean it, she leaned forward. And I meant what I said earlier. I don't want you to be background noise in my life, Malik. I want to know you. Really know you. Even though I'm still figuring out who that is? He laughed a little. I'm 30 years old, working night shifts to pay for certification classes, living in a studio apartment in Queens with a roommate who snores. I'm not exactly Prince Charming. Good, Elise said. I've met enough princes. They're boring. Malik's laugh was real this time, warm and surprised. Okay then, what do you want to know? Everything, Elise said. And she meant it. They talked until 2 in the morning. Malik told her about growing up in Brooklyn, about his mother who worked double shifts as a nurse and still found time to volunteer at the church, about his younger sister who was in med school and called him every Sunday without fail, about the languages he'd picked up from neighbors, friends, library books, and late-night YouTube videos. Elise told him about her mother's laugh, the way she used to dance in the kitchen while making breakfast, about the loneliness of growing up in a penthouse where silence felt like a third parent, about the pressure of carrying a name that meant something to everyone except her. And somewhere in the talking, the distance between them shrank. When they finally left Rosie's, the rain had stopped. The streets gleamed under the streetlights, and the air smelled clean and new. Thank you, Elise said as they stood on the sidewalk. For tonight, for all of it. Thank you for showing up, Malik replied. Not just here, at the event. It would have been easy to send someone else to apologize, or to pretend it never happened. I couldn't do that. Elise hesitated, then added, Can I see you again? After your exam? Malik smiled. Yeah, I'd like that. They exchanged numbers, and when Elise finally caught a cab home, she felt lighter than she had in years. Like maybe, just maybe, something real was beginning. The morning after the gala, Elise woke to 17 missed calls from her father and a text from Nadia. Everyone loved the photo. You're a genius for the optics. Elise stared at the message, her stomach turning. Optics. That's what Nadia thought this was about. She scrolled back through the group chat and found the photo. Her and Malik bent over the cue cards, her finger pointing to something on the page, his expression focused and professional. The caption read, Our girl doing damage control like a boss, even got the staff on her side. Image management. Elise's face burned. She typed and deleted 3 different responses before finally settling on, That's not what this is. Delete it. Nadia replied immediately. Chill, it's just the group. Nobody's going to see it. But that wasn't the point. The point was how easily her world reduced people to tools, to optics, to management. The point was that Malik had been right to keep his distance. She dragged herself out of bed and made coffee in her penthouse kitchen, a massive space with marble counters and appliances she barely knew how to use. Her mother used to make pancakes here on Sunday mornings, flour dusting her silk robe, laughter filling the air. Now the kitchen just felt empty. Her phone rang. Victor. Dad, she answered, exhausted already. Elise, we need to talk about last night. I know, Schneider signed, right? Everything went perfectly. Yes, he signed, but that's not what I'm calling about. Victor's voice carried the tone he used when delivering lectures. I saw you leave with the interpreter, the waiter. Elise's grip tightened on her mug. His name is Malik, and I didn't leave with him. We got coffee, as friends. Friends. Victor let the word hang. Elise, I know you're grateful for his help, but you need to be careful about appearances. People talk. Let them talk. Silence on the other end. Then carefully. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From having a conversation with someone who treated me with more honesty than anyone at that gala? Elise's voice rose. Dad, I insulted him. In German. Because I thought he wouldn't understand. And instead of making a scene, he gave me grace. He helped us. And now you're telling me I need to keep my distance because of appearances? I'm telling you to be smart. Victor's tone hardened. You don't know this person. He works at a hotel. He needs things, and you're in a position to give them. So you think he's using me? I think people see opportunities, and I think you're vulnerable right now. The words hit like a slap. Vulnerable, as if kindness and openness were weaknesses. I have to go, Elise said quietly. Elise. She hung up. For a long moment, she just stood there in her empty kitchen, coffee cooling in her hands, wondering when her life had become something she needed protection from. Malik's practice exam started at 8. He'd been up since 5, reviewing flashcards, running through common interpretation scenarios, trying to silence the nervous buzz in his head. The testing center was in a nondescript office building in Midtown. Fluorescent lights, beige walls, the smell of old carpet, and stress. He checked in, got his badge, and sat in a waiting area with a dozen other candidates who all looked as anxious as he felt. His phone buzzed, a text from Chef Rosa. You've got this, mijo. Breathe and trust yourself. Another from his sister. Go show them what ADMs are made of. And one from Elise. Good luck today. I'm rooting for you. He stared at that last one for a long moment. They'd texted a little after leaving Rosie's. Just small things. Nothing heavy. She'd sent him a photo of her penthouse view at sunrise with the caption, "Can't sleep. Too much coffee." He'd replied with a picture of his textbooks spread across his tiny kitchen table. Same. It felt easy, natural, like maybe they really could be friends. But then he'd seen the screenshot. One of the banquet servers had forwarded it to him that morning with a message, Yo, you famous now. Saw this in some socialite's feed. Damage control, LOL. Malik had read the caption 3 times. Image management. That's what he was to Elise's friend. That's what he'd been afraid of all along. Not being seen as a person, just as a convenient piece in someone else's puzzle. He'd almost texted Elise about it, but what would he say? Hey, your friend made me feel like a prop? That felt petty. Small. So he'd said nothing. Now, sitting in the waiting area, he pushed the thought away. He had bigger things to focus on. Adayemi Malik? He stood, squared his shoulders, and walked into the testing room. The exam lasted 3 hours. Simultaneous interpretation from English to Spanish and back. Consecutive interpretation from French to English. Sight translation of a German medical document. His brain felt like it had run a marathon by the end, but he'd done it. He'd made it through. The proctor, a gray-haired woman with kind eyes, handed him a feedback sheet. Preliminary results will be posted in a week, but I can tell you now, you did well. Very well. Malik felt the tension drain from his shoulders. Thank you. Keep studying, keep practicing. You have a gift for this work. He left the building and stepped into the afternoon sun, feeling like he could breathe fully for the first time in days. His phone buzzed again. Elise. How did it go? He hesitated, then typed. Good, I think. Won't know for sure for a week. Her reply came fast. That's amazing. Can I take you to lunch to celebrate? Or dinner? Or just see you? Malik stood on the sidewalk, people flowing around him, and felt the pull of 2 different instincts. One said, say yes, she's trying. Give her a chance. The other said, protect yourself. You know how this goes. Before he could decide, another text came through. This one from a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Adeyemi, this is Victor Whitman. I'd like to speak with you privately. Are you available this afternoon? Malik's stomach dropped. They met at a cafe in Tribeca, the kind of place where coffee costs $12 and came with foam art. Victor Whitman sat at a corner table, looking every inch the billionaire. Tailored suit, expensive watch. Posture that spoke of boardrooms and power. Malik sat across from him and waited. Victor smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Thank you for meeting me. I wanted to personally thank you for your help last night. Mr. Schneider was very impressed. I'm glad it went well. It did, in no small part because of you. Victor slid an envelope across the table. I wanted to show my appreciation. Malik didn't touch it. What's this? Consider it a consulting fee for the interpretation work. I was paid by the hotel. This is separate, personal. Victor's tone stayed pleasant, but something underneath felt sharp. You helped my daughter through a difficult evening. That's worth something. Malik looked at the envelope, then at Victor. How much is in there? $10,000. The number hung in the air between them. Malik leaned back. Mr. Whitman, I appreciate the gesture, but I can't accept this. Why not? You earned it. Because this isn't about earning. Malik kept his voice level. This is about you wanting me to keep my distance from Elise. Victor's expression didn't change, but his eyes went cold. I want what's best for my daughter. And you think I'm not that? I think you're a young man in a difficult position, and I think my daughter is going through a vulnerable time. I don't blame you for being kind to her, but I do think it's important to be realistic about the situation. Realistic? Malik repeated. You mean, remember my place? I mean, understand context. Victor folded his hands on the table. Elise lives in a world where people want things from her. Money, access, status. It's made her cautious, and rightfully so. I don't want anything from her. Everyone wants something, Mr. Adeyemi. Victor's smile was thin. The question is whether you're honest about it. Malik stood. I don't need your money, and I don't need your permission. If Elise wants to talk to me, that's her choice, not yours. Sit down. Victor's voice carried the kind of command that probably worked in boardrooms. We're not finished. But Malik was already walking away. Yes, we are. He left the cafe, the envelope still sitting on the table, and didn't look back. Elise was in a planning meeting when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She glanced at it discreetly. This is Malik. Your father just tried to pay me to stay away from you. Thought you should know. Her heart stopped. Elise? Nadia leaned over. You okay? You look pale? I have to go. Elise stood, gathering her things. Wait, we're in the middle of... But Elise was already out the door. She called her father. He didn't answer. She called again. Nothing. So she went to his office. Victor's assistant tried to stop her, but Elise walked past without breaking stride. She pushed open the heavy oak door to find her father at his desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, looking completely unruffled. Elise, I wasn't expecting... How could you? Her voice shook with anger. How could you offer Malik money? Like he's some problem you can pay to go away? Victor set down his glasses. I was protecting you? From what? From someone who treats me like a human being instead of a brand? From making a mistake. Victor's tone turned stern. You don't know this person, Elise. You had one conversation at a diner. That doesn't mean... It means more than 5 years of these events where everyone says exactly what I want to hear. Elise's hands clenched into fists. Malik told me the truth. He called me out when I was wrong. He helped us without asking for anything in return. And you insulted him. You insulted me by assuming I'm too stupid or too weak to make my own choices about who I spend time with. Victor stood. You're upset, I understand. But... No, you don't understand. Elise's voice dropped, but the intensity didn't. Mom would be ashamed of what we've become. She taught me to see people, not positions. To value character, not connections. And I forgot that. I let you turn me into someone who judges a person's worth by their job title and their bank account. Your mother was naive, Victor said quietly. She saw the world the way she wanted it to be, not the way it was. Maybe, or maybe she saw it more clearly than we do. Elise moved toward the door. I'm going to find Malik and apologize. For you, for Nadia's caption, for all of it. And then I'm going to figure out how to be the person Mom raised me to be, not the one you're trying to create. Elise. She left before he could finish. Malik lived in Astoria, in a building with a faded brick facade and a bodega on the ground floor. Elise found the address through the hotel's HR contact, probably unethical, definitely desperate, and stood outside his door for a full minute before knocking. He answered in sweatpants and a t-shirt, surprise flickering across his face. Elise? I'm so sorry. The words tumbled out. My father had no right. Neither did Nadia with that caption. I didn't know she wrote that until this morning, and I told her to delete it, but the damage was already done, and I should have been clearer about boundaries and… Hey! Malik held up a hand. Breathe. Elise sucked in air and realized she was shaking. Come in, he said quietly. His apartment was small but clean. A futon against one wall, a kitchen table covered in textbooks, a single window that looked out onto a fire escape. Nothing fancy, but it felt lived in, real. I'm sorry I just showed up, Elise said. I didn't know what else to do. Malik leaned against the counter. Your dad really doesn't like me, huh? He doesn't know you, and he's used to solving problems with money. She met his eyes. But that doesn't make it okay? No, it doesn't. Malik was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? When Nadia posted that caption, image management, damage control, did you see me that way, even for a second? Elise wanted to lie, to make it easy, but he deserved the truth. I didn't think about it that way consciously, but I also didn't stop her. And that's almost worse, isn't it? Because it means part of me still sees the world the way I was raised, like everything is strategy. Malik nodded slowly. At least you're honest. I don't want to be that person anymore. Elise's voice cracked. I don't want to live in a world where every conversation is calculated and every relationship is transactional. I'm so tired, Malik. I'm so tired of pretending. He studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he said, You want some eggs? She blinked. What? Eggs. Breakfast. It's almost 4, but I haven't eaten since this morning, and I'm starving. He opened his tiny fridge. I make a mean scramble. Yes, okay. He smiled. Good, sit. Elise sat at the small table and watched him work. He moved with the same easy confidence he'd shown at the gala, cracking eggs, chopping peppers, humming softly under his breath. Can I ask you something? Elise said. Sure. Teach me a phrase, in Yoruba, something that means, I'm listening, really listening. Malik glanced over his shoulder. Why Yoruba? Because it's a language I don't know. Because I want to learn something from you that has nothing to do with galas or images or any of that. Just something real. He turned off the stove and brought 2 plates to the table. Then he sat across from her and said slowly, Moingbo, oh. What does it mean? I am listening, but it's deeper than that. It means I'm paying attention with my whole self. Not just hearing words, but understanding what's underneath them. Elise repeated it carefully. Moingbo, oh. Good. Malik smiled. Now try it again, but softer, like you're promising something. She did. And when she looked up, she found him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Something between hope and caution, like he was deciding whether to trust this moment. They ate in comfortable silence. The eggs were perfect, fluffy, seasoned just right, served with toast from a corner bakery. Simple food that tasted like care. This is the best meal I've had in months, Elise admitted. Better than the gala? So much better. She laughed. That food was beautiful, but it didn't taste like anything. This tastes like, I don't know, like someone actually wanted me to enjoy it. I did want you to enjoy it, Malik said quietly. Their eyes met across the table, and something shifted, something fragile and new and terrifying. Elise reached across the table. Malik hesitated, then took her hand. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. I don't know how to be with someone without strategies or scripts. Neither do I, Malik admitted. But maybe we figure it out together? Yeah, okay. He stood, still holding her hand, and pulled her gently to her feet. They stood close, breath mingling, the whole world narrowing to this small kitchen in Queens. Can I kiss you? Malik asked. Please. It was soft at first, tentative, testing, then deeper, more certain. Elise's hands found his shoulders, his found her waist, and for the first time in years, she felt completely present. No performance, no image, just this. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Malik smiled. That was, yeah, Elise agreed. They stood there, foreheads touching, and let the moment stretch. Then Elise's phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. You should check that, Malik said. She pulled it out reluctantly. A text from Nadia. Your dad is furious. Where are you? And then another, this time from her father. If you're with that young man, please come home. We need to talk. Reality crashed back in. I have to go, Elise said, hating the words. I know. Malik stepped back, giving her space. But Elise, whatever happens next, with your dad, with your friends, with all of it, just remember you get to choose, not them. She nodded, throat tight. I'll call you tonight? I'll be here. She kissed him once more, quick and fierce, then left before she could change her mind. As she walked down the stairs and out into the late afternoon light, Elise pulled out her phone and typed a text to Nadia. Take me out of that group chat and delete the photo. I'm not asking anymore. Then she texted her father. I'm coming home. But we're setting some boundaries, and you're going to listen. For the first time in 5 years, Elise Whitman felt like she was steering her own life, and it was terrifying. And it was right. The week that followed felt like walking a tightrope. Elise met with her father twice. Once in his office, once over a quiet dinner at a restaurant he chose specifically because no one they knew would be there. Both times, Victor listened with the stiff posture of someone unaccustomed to being challenged by his own daughter. Both times, he tried to steer the conversation back to practicalities and optics, and both times, Elise held firm. I'm not asking your permission, she'd told him over untouched pasta. I'm telling you how things are going to be. Malik is in my life. If you want to be in my life too, you'll treat him with respect. Victor had set down his fork carefully. And if I can't do that, then we'll have a problem. Elise's voice hadn't wavered. I love you, Dad, but I won't let you turn me into someone who values money over people. Mom wouldn't have wanted that. At the mention of Catherine, Victor's expression had cracked, just for a moment. Then he'd cleared his throat and changed the subject. Progress, Elise thought, came in inches. Meanwhile, she and Malik texted throughout the days and talked on the phone at night. Nothing heavy, mostly. Just small pieces of their lives traded back and forth. He told her about the Korean grandmother in his building who brought him soup when she cooked too much. She told him about the corner of Central Park where her mother used to take her to feed ducks. They didn't see each other in person. Not yet. Both of them seemed to sense that the next step needed to be deliberate, chosen, not rushed. But Elise counted down the days until Malik's certification results would be posted. On Thursday afternoon, Malik got the email. He was at work, clearing tables after a luncheon, when his phone buzzed. He almost didn't check it. The hotel had strict rules about phones during shifts, but something made him glance at the screen. New message from NYC Interpreter Certification Board. His heart stopped. Then started again, too fast. He stepped into the service corridor, hands shaking as he opened the email. Dear Mr. Adeyemi, we are pleased to inform you that you have successfully passed all components of the interpreter certification examination. He had to read it 3 times before it sank in. He'd passed. After 2 years of studying, hundreds of hours of practice, late nights and early mornings, and doubting himself at every turn, he'd actually done it. Malik? Chef Rosa appeared at his elbow. You okay? You look like you're about to pass out. He showed her the email, unable to form words. Rosa's face broke into a wide grin. She grabbed him by the shoulders and shook him gently. I told you you'd do it. I can't believe it, Malik managed. Believe it, mijo. You earned this. She pulled him into a quick, fierce hug. Now get back to work before you get us both in trouble. But tonight, we celebrate. Malik laughed, feeling lighter than air. Yeah, tonight. He texted his sister first. I passed. Her response came in seconds. I knew it. Mom would be so proud. Then he texted Elise. I passed the exam. I'm certified. 3 dots appeared immediately then. Malik, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. Can I see you? Please? He hesitated, then typed, After my shift, 7 p.m., I'll be there. They met at the East River Promenade just as the sun started to set. The water reflected orange and pink, and joggers passed in steady streams, but Malik barely noticed any of it. His eyes were on Elise, walking toward him in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked different, softer, more herself. Congratulations, she said, slightly breathless. I'm so... She stopped, shook her head, and threw her arms around him instead. Malik held her tight, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the realness of her warmth. I'm so proud of you, Elise murmured against his shoulder. You worked so hard for this. Thanks. He pulled back just enough to see her face. It still doesn't feel real. It is real. You did it. Her smile was radiant. So, what happens now? Do you get a fancy new job? A corner office? Malik laughed. Not quite, but I can start taking freelance interpretation work. Build a client list. Eventually, yeah. Maybe my own practice. But for now, I'm still working at the hotel until I've got enough steady clients to pay rent. That makes sense. Elise took his hand as they started walking along the promenade. Slow and steady. Yeah. He glanced at her. Speaking of slow and steady, how are things with your dad? Tense, but getting better, I think. Elise sighed. He's not used to me pushing back, and I'm not used to standing my ground, so we're both figuring it out. That's good, though. Growth isn't supposed to be comfortable. No, she agreed. It's really not. They walked in silence for a moment, just existing together in the fading light. Can I tell you something? Elise said finally. Always. The night of the gala, when I insulted you, I keep replaying it in my head. Not because I haven't forgiven myself, I'm working on that, but because it showed me something I didn't want to see. I was cruel, because I thought I could be, because I thought you wouldn't understand, wouldn't push back, wouldn't matter. She stopped walking and turned to face him. And that's the ugliest version of myself. The one my father raised me to be, whether he meant to or not. Malik's chest ached at the raw honesty in her voice. You're not that person anymore. I'm trying not to be. But it scares me. What if I slip back? What if I hurt you again without meaning to? Then we'll deal with it. Malik squeezed her hand. Elise, you think I'm perfect? I've spent half my life carrying around the weight of people's expectations. Be humble. Be grateful. Don't take up too much space. Don't ask for too much. And when your dad offered me that money, part of me wanted to take it. Not because I needed it, but because it felt like proof that I was worth something. That's messed up, right? That's human, Elise corrected softly. Maybe. But my point is, we're both works in progress. And if we're going to do this, really do this, we have to give each other permission to mess up, as long as we're honest about it. Elise nodded, eyes bright. Okay, honest. I can do honest. Good. Malik pulled her close. Because I'm honestly crazy about you, and it's terrifying. She laughed, the sound muffled against his chest. Same, on both counts. They stood there as the sky deepened to purple, as the city lights began to flicker on, as the world kept spinning around them. There's something I need to do, Elise said suddenly. And I need you to come with me, if you're willing. What is it? Face my father, properly. Not in his office or at some restaurant. At my home. She looked up at him, nervous. I want him to see you the way I see you. Not as a threat or a mistake, but as someone I choose, someone I care about. Malik's throat tightened. Are you sure? No, Elise admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. Okay. He kissed her forehead. When? Tomorrow night. I'm hosting a small dinner. Just him, me, you, and Chef Rosa. Chef Rosa? Elise grinned. She said if my father tries anything, she'll threaten him with a wooden spoon, and I believe her. Malik laughed. Yeah, that sounds like Rosa. So, you'll come? He took a breath, steadying himself. Yeah, I'll come. The next evening, Malik stood outside Elise's building in Chelsea and seriously considered turning around. The doorman had already called up. There was no backing out now. But still, a penthouse. Dinner with a billionaire who'd tried to pay him off. This was not his comfort zone. You look like you're about to rob the place. Malik turned to find Chef Rosa walking up the sidewalk, carrying a canvas bag that smelled incredible. She wore a floral dress instead of her usual chef's whites, and her hair was down. I'm nervous, he admitted. Good. Means you care. Rosa jerked her head toward the entrance. Come on, let's go show that man what respect looks like. They rode the elevator together, Rosa humming softly, Malik trying to breathe normally. When the doors opened directly into Elise's penthouse, his breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. The space was massive, but somehow still warm. Art on the walls, plants in corners, bookshelves stuffed with actual books. And in the open kitchen, Elise stood at the stove, stirring something in a pot, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked up and smiled. You made it. Barely, Malik said, but he was smiling too. Rosa swept past him. Let me see what you're cooking. If you're burning my recipe, I'm taking over. It's perfect, Elise protested. Probably. Malik walked over and peered into the pot. Arroz con pollo? Rosa's recipe. I've made it 3 times this week trying to get it right. Elise looked at him, vulnerable. I wanted to cook something real, not catered, not fancy, just honest. It smells amazing, Malik said softly. The doorbell chimed, old-fashioned, elegant. Elise's shoulders tensed. That's him. Rosa squeezed her shoulder. We've got you, mija. Elise crossed to the door and opened it. Victor Whitman stood in the hallway, holding a bottle of wine that probably cost more than Malik's rent. He wore a suit, tie slightly loosened, and his expression was carefully neutral. Dad? Elise said. Come in. Victor stepped inside, his gaze sweeping the room and landing on Malik. For a moment, neither man moved. Then Malik stepped forward and extended his hand. Mr. Whitman, thank you for coming. Victor looked at the offered hand for a long, tense moment. Then slowly, he shook it. Mr. Adeyemi. Please, call me Malik. Malik. Victor tested the name. I understand congratulations are in order. Your certification. Thank you. I found out yesterday. That's quite an accomplishment. Victor's tone was stiff, but not hostile. Progress, Malik supposed. And this is Chef Rosa Alvarez, Elise said, gesturing. From the hotel. She's been a mentor to both of us. Rosa gave Victor a look that could have cut glass. Mr. Whitman, I hope you brought your appetite and your manners. Victor blinked, clearly unused to being spoken to so directly. Yes. Both. Good. Rosa turned back to the stove. Dinner in 10 minutes. Elise, set the table. Malik, help her. Mr. Whitman, you can sit down and try not to look like you're at a business meeting. Despite himself, Victor's mouth twitched, almost a smile. They sat around Elise's dining table. A round one, Malik noticed, so no one was at the head. Elise served the arroz con pollo with a simple salad and crusty bread from a neighborhood bakery. Rosa poured wine, and for a few minutes, they just ate. The food was good, really good, and the silence, while not entirely comfortable, wasn't hostile either. Finally, Victor spoke. This is excellent, Elise. When did you learn to cook? This week? Elise admitted. Rosa taught me. I figured it was time I learned to make something with my own hands. Victor nodded slowly, absorbing that. Mr. Whitman, Malik said, setting down his fork. I know you don't trust me, and I understand why. But I want you to know something. Victor's gaze sharpened. I'm listening. I'm not here because of your money or your connections. I'm here because your daughter is one of the most genuine people I've ever met. She's smart and funny and braver than she gives herself credit for. And yeah, she made a mistake at that gala. But she owned it. She apologized. She tried to do better. That's rare. Elise's hand found Malik's under the table and squeezed. Malik continued, his voice steady. I'm not asking for your approval, but I am asking for your respect, because Elise deserves to make her own choices without feeling like she has to choose between her family and her life. Victor was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he looked at his daughter. Is this what you want? Yes, Elise said without hesitation. He is. And you're willing to deal with the complications? The questions people will ask? The judgment? I'm willing to deal with anything except living my life according to other people's expectations. Elise's voice was firm. You raised me to value integrity, Dad. I'm just choosing to value it over image. Victor flinched slightly at that. He took a sip of wine, set down his glass, and sighed. Your mother would be proud of you. Elise's eyes filled. You think so? I know so. Victor looked at Malik again, and this time his gaze held less suspicion, more assessment. She always said that character reveals itself under pressure. I see now that you were right. Mr. Adeyemi showed his character that night, and I showed mine when I tried to pay him off. Yes, Rosa interjected. You did, and it was ugly. Victor almost smiled. You don't mince words, do you, Chef? Life's too short for pretty lies, Rosa said. Especially when you're trying to control a grown woman who's finally figuring out who she is. Dad, Elise said softly. I know you're scared. I know you've spent 5 years trying to protect me from the world. But I don't need protection. I need support. There's a difference. Victor was quiet for a long time. Then, finally, he nodded. You're right, and I'm sorry. He turned to Malik. I apologize for the offense I caused. It was beneath me. And it was wrong. Malik felt the sincerity in the words. Thank you. That means a lot. Don't make me regret this, Victor added, but there was almost warmth in his voice now. I won't, Malik promised. They finished dinner with lighter conversation. Rosa told stories about kitchen disasters. Elise asked her father about her mother's favorite recipes. And slowly, the tension in the room eased. When Victor finally left, he shook Malik's hand again. This time, the grip was firmer, more genuine. Take care of her, Victor said quietly. I will, and she'll take care of me too. Victor nodded, then surprised them both by pulling Elise into a hug. I love you, even when I'm terrible at showing it. I love you too, Dad. After he left, Rosa gathered her things. I'm heading out too. You two need some time. Rosa? Elise said. Thank you for everything. De nada, mija. Rosa kissed her cheek, then Malik's. You're good for each other. Don't screw it up. We'll try not to, Malik said, grinning. When they were finally alone, Elise and Malik stood in the quiet penthouse, city lights twinkling beyond the windows. That was intense, Malik said. That was progress. Elise wrapped her arms around his waist. Thank you for coming, for being honest, for being you. Thank you for not letting your father win. Malik kissed the top of her head. You were incredible. They swayed slightly, just holding each other. Malik? Elise said after a while. Yeah? Remember when you taught me that phrase in Yoruba? Mo ngbo o? I remember. She pulled back to look at him. I want to learn more, not just Yoruba, but all of it. French, Spanish, German, Italian. I want to understand the world the way you do, through words that mean something. Malik's heart swelled. I can teach you, if you're patient with me. I'll be patient. She smiled. Will you be patient with me? Always. They kissed, slow and sweet, a promise made without words. Stay tonight? Elise whispered. Nothing complicated, just stay. Yeah, Malik said. I'll stay. They curled up on the couch together, talking until late about small things. What movies they loved, what foods they hated, where they'd go if they could travel anywhere. Ordinary conversation that felt extraordinary because it was theirs. And when Elise finally fell asleep, her head on Malik's shoulder, he stayed awake a little longer, looking out at the city and feeling grateful. Grateful for the insult that had become an introduction. Grateful for the courage to speak up when staying silent would have been easier. Grateful for second chances and honest conversations and a woman who chose growth over comfort. 3 months later, Malik got his first major client, a hospital network that needed interpreters for patient consultations. The pay was good, steady, and it meant he could finally quit the hotel. His last shift, Chef Rosa threw him a small party in the kitchen. Cake, hugs, promises to stay in touch. You did it, mijo, she said, eyes bright. Now go change the world. I'm just translating, Malik said, embarrassed. You're building bridges, Rosa corrected. That's everything. That night, Elise met him at their spot on the East River Promenade. They walked hand in hand, trading phrases in different languages, planning a trip to see his sister in Boston, laughing about the time Elise had accidentally ordered something inappropriate in Spanish at a bodega. Hey, Malik said, stopping under a streetlight. I love you. It was the first time either of them had said it. Elise's breath caught. Then she smiled, eyes shining. I love you too, in every language. Je t'aime, Malik said, softly. French. Ti amo, Elise replied. Italian. Te amo. Spanish. Ich liebe dich. German. Monife e. Yoruba. They kissed as the city hummed around them, Two people who'd started as strangers and become something infinitely more: partners, friends, mirrors that reflected each other's best selves. Love, they'd learned, wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up. About choosing honesty over image, vulnerability over armor, growth over comfort. It was about learning each other's languages, not just the words, but the silences between them. And as they walked home together, fingers intertwined, hearts wide open, both of them knew they'd found something rare. Not a fairy tale, but something better. Something real. 1 year later, Malik stood in his small but professional office in Midtown, straightening his tie. Through the window, he could see the building where he'd taken his certification exam, and it felt like looking back at a different life. His phone buzzed. Elise. "Good luck with the keynote. You're going to be amazing. I'll be in the front row." He smiled. Today he was speaking at a conference for new interpreters, sharing his journey, offering encouragement, hopefully inspiring someone the way Chef Rosa had inspired him. The door opened, and Elise walked in, stunning in a simple blue dress, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," she said. "You're a lifesaver." He took the coffee and kissed her. "Nervous?" "Don't be. Just tell them your story. The real one. The one where I called out a billionaire heiress in 4 languages?" "Exactly that one." Elise grinned. "It's a good story." "It's our story," Malik corrected. "Even better." They stood together in the quiet office, sipping coffee, preparing for the day ahead. Outside, the city moved at its frantic pace. But here, in this small pocket of peace, time slowed. "Thank you," Malik said suddenly. "For what?" "For seeing me. Really seeing me. That night at the gala, you could have just moved on, pretended it didn't happen. But you didn't. I'm glad I didn't." Elise set down her coffee and took his hands. "You changed my life, Malika Dayemi. You changed mine too." He kissed her forehead. "Ready to go change some more lives?" "Always." They walked out together, hand in hand, into the bright morning. Two people who'd learned that respect wasn't a performance, that love wasn't a transaction, and that the most beautiful stories often started with the courage to speak truth, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Because that's when it mattered most. The end.